فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. وقال الله سبحانه وتعالى: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. وبعد. My beloved brothers and sisters, we begin by expressing words of gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is the one who created us, guides us, forgives us, sustains us, and allows us to live on the planet, enjoy all the many, many beautiful, wonderful bounties that He gives each and every one of us each day. And so whenever we gather, we need to take time to say thanks. Today's khutbah is a kind of a special khutbah in that we need to do several things. As all of us are aware, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing the planet with the COVID-19 virus. And whenever a test comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there are usually two things that you have to do. Number one, whatever practical arrangements you need to make regarding that particular test. And secondly, to understand the lessons that Allah is trying to convey to us by means of this test, and what benefits we can get from it. We will try to do both of this today. In relation to practical steps, we're going to be talking about three things. Number one, a little bit about the coronavirus. Number two, what our scholars have said and recommended for us from relation to our deen. And thirdly, what decisions and steps our community will be taking regarding our precaution and preparation for that. And then we will end with some lessons that we can learn from it, inshallah. A lot of the khutbah will be, for the first time, trying to read from a piece of paper. First of all, I want to say that many things I will say today will be met with people who will disagree on one side or the other side. And that is okay. What is important is we adopt the adab. And I want to remind all of us at the beginning, Abu Hurairah said, if you say to your companion when the Imam starts giving the khutbah or is preaching on the Friday, if you say to your companion, be quiet and listen, you have made noise. So the etiquette of Jumu'ah is that you listen and you don't make noise by interrupting. Any questions you have, I will be here after the Jumu'ah to answer all of them, inshallah, to the best of my ability. So please bear with me as we go through this exercise, and be patient if you have disagreements or stuff like that. Now the coronavirus, it's called COVID, Co for corona, V, I for virus, and D for disease. 19 is because it was discovered in 2019. It is not heat resistant. When the virus is exposed to like 78 degrees, then it starts to fade off. So drinking a lot of hot liquids and exposure to sun contributes to keeping the virus away. If a virus usually comes from people sneezing and coughing and it drops on metal surfaces, it can last on that surface for almost 12 hours. So you have to make sure that if you're touching surfaces like that, that you keep washing your hands as much as possible. The virus can remain on your fabric for about 12 hours, and 6 to 12 hours, and regular detergent will take care of that. Now, it gets spread by people coming in close contact with each other from 6 to 10 feet. Someone sneezes or coughs, and a droplet just goes in the air and lands on you, and then it may enter your throat, and then you end up getting affected. It will start by affecting your throat. You will feel a sore throat or a dry cough for 3 to 4 days. And then it will begin to get into your passages, your trachea and your lungs, and causing pneumonia. And then that will take about 5 to 6 days. And then you will get a high fever and begin to get nasal congestion, feel like you're drowned in. Immediately you should contact your medical specialist for attention if you see those things happening. The most effective way of controlling and keeping this virus from spreading is what they call social distancing, which means keeping away from people as far as possible. going out as least as possible. The more interaction you make, the more chances it. Please do not underestimate this virus and feel arrogant that, oh, I'm young, or whatever it is. Take it seriously, because the rate at which it is spreading is incredible. And so don't think you will be able to avoid or feel that you are immune to it. So keep washing your hands as much as possible. Avoid touching your face and your nose and your mouth. If you are touching like places where that drop can stay, like here, for example, tabletops, doorknobs, bathroom fixtures, toilets, phones, keyboards, tablets, bedside tables, and all of those, you have to keep trying to wipe those down. And if you're touching them regularly, please wash your hands as much as possible. The virus only lasts about 10 to 15 minutes in your hands. But that 10 to 15 minutes will be the time when you'll be touching. So the more you wash your hands, the more we protect ourselves from it. And so may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to sensibly engage with this virus, which is on the up and not down and spreading very much. In terms of our scholars and what they have mentioned about this, we have many, many different rulings that have come out by both councils and also by our individual scholars. The Assembly of Muslim Jurists of America, which is AMJA, came out with a long fatwa, and they mentioned that we should work with the local authorities and whatever recommendation our local authorities direct us to in terms of social gatherings and all of that, and direct our decisions based on that. They have the American Medical Association of North America, IMANA. They came together with the American Muslim Health Professionals, along with the Islamic Society of North America and the Fiqh Council of North America. And they have issued several statements as a collective body of these different groups, recommending to Muslims to follow it. They said that Islamic Sharia puts preservation of life as more significant than continuing essential worship. That putting safety of life first is more critical than your essential worship. And there's a principle which says preventing harm precedes acquisition of benefits. In other words, if you have to choose between trying to get benefits by doing special prayers and all of that, and you have harm, the harm, protecting yourself from harm precedes and is more important and a priority than going after the benefits you may get from actions which will endanger you. And they give several evidences, which I don't want to go too long into them, but the Prophet ﷺ have one hadith in which he says, he who hears the adhan and finds no excuse, has no excuse to respond, then his prayers, if he prayed by himself, will not be accepted. And the Sahaba said, what's the excuse? What's an excuse for missing the Jama'ah prayer? And he says two things, fear and sickness. There's a long story which you should read really in Bukhari. There's a hadith number 5729 with a dialogue with Umar al-Khattab about going away from a virus, a place that he was coming to, and then he left, and then they questioned him. And they said, what are you doing? Why are you afraid of the qadr of Allah? This is the qadr of Allah, where are you running? And Umar says, I'm running from the qadr of Allah to the qadr of Allah. As I'm running from harm towards. And then he begins to explain a long hadith about if you're in a mountain and you have one side of the mountain that has beautiful fertilized land for your camel and one of it is barren, which one you're going to choose? You're going to choose the qadr of Allah that puts you on the side of goodness and so on. So, the Fiqh Council of North America says, it is our duty as Muslims that we take all necessary steps to safeguard ourselves and around us from this terrible disease. One's personal desire to do obligatory prayers at the masjid or fulfill other religious duties comes secondary to ensuring the common health of the larger community. Masjids should be protected from bacterial and viral transmission. From the Islamic, they also mention as a group that from an Islamic perspective and public health perspective, it is totally reasonable for communities to take the following steps: cancel congregational prayers, cancel Sunday schools and halakas, limit meetings, and cancel conferences and social gatherings. So these are some of the recommendations that the main councils of the Muslim jurists have advised us in terms of going forward. For Jumu'ah, we should also know and be reminded that the Jumu'ah is not compulsory for women. And so we're recommending that the sisters should not come to Jumu'ah. Children are not compulsory for them. Now, if the sisters do come, we cannot prevent anybody from coming, but generally we are recommending that you stay at home. Children, the elderly, especially if you have some kind of, because you're prone to catch diseases, the weak, the sick, the traveler, especially if you've traveled within the last 14 days, either from a cruise ship or from another country, then you should not come to the masjid. You should stay at home and don't come to the masjid. And then there are also sometimes extreme circumstances where if the environment is unhealthy, extreme cold or extreme heat, that some of the scholars have mentioned that Jumu'ah, you could forego coming to the Jumu'ah because it will endanger your life. Now when we do come to the Jumu'ah, it is important to know that we are not allowed to shake hands, no fist bumping, no foot bumping, basically don't touch each other. As much as you can avoid that, that's very important. Walk with a tissue, so in case you sneeze or cough, that you will cough into it. This is actually a practice of the Prophet in which when he sneezed, he would put his hand like this and sometimes cough into his arm. Wash your hands as close as possible to the prayer. Wash your hands before you come to Jumu'ah, when you make wudu, and so on. Bring your prayer mat if you can, or you can bring portable ones, butcher paper, or whatever it is that you can prevent when you go down for the sajda, that at least you're not breathing in the other person who just prayed theirs, may have left things there and they didn't die. So you may want to get small tissue, just on your face at least, be on the paper or a mat, inshallah. When you're coming for Jumu'ah, come as close as possible to the Jumu'ah time and leave as fast as possible after Jumu'ah. Don't hang around, don't loiter and socialize. The scholars have even allowed that when you pray, you can keep some distance between each other and not have to jab each other's shoulder tightly as a way of preventing this infection from coming to you. Now, what has happened is that we are in a very peculiar situation in that the system that we have in America, it has failed in a sense that they don't have enough testing like other countries. And one of the unfortunate things, that leaves a big unknown for us. Because unless you're tested, nobody knows who have it. They did one small community, they found 1,500 testing that they did just as a sample. 100 people out of that 1,500 had it. So we could have like tens of people in here that have coronavirus right now because we don't know who have and who don't because we have no access to testing. So until we have access to testing, it becomes an unknown. Really, it's like you're having a huge potential problem among you and we are unable to know the magnitude of it. And so this is what makes it very, very peculiar, and that we have to take extra precaution since social distancing is the most effective way of minimizing it and keeping it at bay. The Broward and many of the cities, they say if you have 50 people or more gathered, then that's a problem. And so we also have, based on these and recommendations from these councils, all over the United States, the masjids in Texas have all canceled their Jumu'ah, in Chicago, in California, in Minnesota, in New Jersey. Large swaths of masjids have canceled Jumu'ah based on this recommendation on this unknown factor, and the fact that we having these large gatherings will create that problem of the coronavirus spread. We have had many scholars, Dr. Walid Basayuni, Dr. Yasir Qadi, Dr. Birjas, Omar Sulaiman, have all recommended that we should suspend Jumu'ah until further, and keep track of what is happening from moment to moment, and then inform our community. Now, at Nur Ul Islam, we have been back and forth with the executive and discussing what should be our approach and what we should do. And here are the following that we are trying to establish and institute ASAP. Number one, we are from this weekend suspending all classes at Nur Ul Islam. This includes the madrasa, meetings, social programs. The madrasa may meet this week, I have to talk about it soon. But after that, we are suspending all classes and meetings like that. The breakfast program is canceled for this month. If you can hold classes remotely, then we recommend you do that, or meetings. Number two, we are recommending the brothers who are leading the salah in the masjid, the daily prayer that we're going to be trying to recite shorter surahs so we can get you out of there quicker, to minimize some of the spreading of it. We're suspending our after Fajr breakfast. I haven't been able to reach the brother yet, but let him know if you see him. I think he's here. We're not going to have the after Fajr breakfast for now. We usually have after Fajr breakfast from Monday to Friday, so we will be suspending that for now. We're recommending that if you're sick or elderly, you should preferably pray at home and don't come to the masjid. All this is based on what our scholars have recommended. That you should stay at home and preferably that. If you came from abroad, as I mentioned before, from a cruise or traveling, stay home for 14 days to make sure you don't have the virus before you start coming back to the masjid. And be mindful, if you see someone who is sick and walks into the masjid, you have to let them know they have to leave. Let them know that they should leave because they are endangering the community. In relation to our Jumu'ah here, today Miami Gardens have suspended their Jumu'ah until further notice. Next week we will not be having Jumu'ah. We are suspending our Jumu'ah as well. Based on all the recommendations and all the research that we have done, listening to the scholars and the councils, we are going to follow this directive of keeping our community safe and before we end up with a huge problem in our hands. So from this Friday coming, there will be no Jumu'ah. Now that doesn't mean that you should now begin to make your homes and have Jumu'ah for yourself. Like start to invite your neighbors and have Jumu'ah. What they say is that praise Zuhr, the whole idea behind suspending Jumu'ah is the message of not gathering and congregating. All of you are free. If the other masjids are having Jumu'ah still and you want to take a chance, that's up to you. But you're not obligated based on your community have made a decision to suspend Jumu'ah. You are now allowed to make Zuhr and pray your Salah at home. You don't have to feel the obligation to go and make Jumu'ah somewhere else. So this is what they have decided. And there's no Jumu'ah line where you're just following the Khatib comes here and you'll remotely bring Jumu'ah from home. That doesn't exist. Alright, so you get the reward from Allah based on this circumstance. Allah knows what is happening. He's in charge. So you make Salat al-Zuhr as they recommend. We cannot stop anyone who wants to go anywhere and do what they want to do on their own, but this is our recommendation based on what the scholars have said to us. The academy is going to be having half a day of Jumu'ah going forward, and they are guided by the school board, so they still have school for now, because they have to be governed by what the school board says, and based on recommendations of the school board, they will act accordingly in terms of doing what they need to be done. We are acting from the masjid based on what our scholars have indicated to us. I also want to mention that if there are needy persons or people who have difficulty in terms of getting food or access to services, and you think in the coming days you're going to need help, then you should let us know your phone number and address, so that should the city get locked down or whatever it is, at least we know there's somebody there who needs help, that we can maybe find a way to get help to you. But let us know early who are those people so we can plan, be able to help those needy people around our community who may need help. I also want to mention that you need to talk to your children, because the children get very scared when they see the adults get scared. That let them know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects those who believe. and that this will pass. And you have to have a conversation with them. Let them understand that bad things happen to people when they disobey Allah and they go and eat haram. And let them know that they need to put their trust in Allah and they must wash their hands. How wudu will help with this. And that they should practice washing their hands. And encourage them to pray and make dua to Allah. And don't let them watch the news and the TV and see all this stuff that is going on 24/7. So you've got to manage and watch your children before they become very agitated, especially like kids who are like above 8 to 10, 12. They need to be comforted that it's not the end of the world and all of that. So we need to remind ourselves to be able to do that as well. And so these are some of the steps and decisions that we've taken in terms of our community. And as I said, there are people who will always disagree, whatever it is. But please respect the fact that we are trying as a community to make decisions that are beneficial for the large group and not for the individual. Individually, you want to do something, that's up to you. You can do whatever individually you want to do, but as a community, we have to take these steps to be able to ensure that our community is protected. Lastly, I want to mention that some of the benefits or lessons we see is we get to see the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah has the power to cripple the world in a very short time. Not only a country with a hurricane or a tsunami or some small thing. He has the ability to affect the whole planet in ways that are incredible and terrifying. And so we tend to forget in our arrogance that we control this and we have that, and Allah reminds us here that you are very weak, very, very frail. And so in understanding the magnificence of Allah's power, we need to be grateful for what we have been given and how each day Allah protects each and every one of us, and be reminded of that with gratitude that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. That if you're grateful, Allah will give you more, inshallah. And that we should reflect that death is so close. We tend to think of our death as being a far place away. That we are not going to die tomorrow or next week or next year, because we put it to the back of our brain as if this is a negative, morbid kind of thing to think. And a lot of us feel, I'm not going to die soon. But Allah is reminding us, the young is dying, the old is dying before our eyes. And so we have to remember that we too will die. And as a reminder of that, to understand that I have to prepare for that moment by the way I live. We've got to live our lives and use this moment to get to know Allah even closer, to become closer to Him. For no matter what cure they find in a year or 2 years, the reality is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that you want to be in good terms with. And so use this opportunity, inshallah, to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to change our lifestyle, to become more devoted to Him and to obey Him, so that we can learn the lessons of this. And those of you who can help in situations like this, we need heroes and champions who will step up. And if you can help in any way, and to anyone who may need help, please don't hesitate to be selfish. Already the selfishness has started. Everybody going to all the stores and buying up everything like if they are stocking up for 6, 7, 8 months, creating artificial shortage. These kind of behaviors where the selfish gene of the community starts to think and become panic. Do not panic. Do not become flustered. All this is part of Allah's will. And if you believe in Allah, Allah will make sure that Allah will protect us and guide us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us and cause this terrible virus to, inshallah, go away. And may He protect our community and all the communities, and allow them to learn the lessons that we can from this important and very difficult test, inshallah. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin hamdan kaseeran tayyiban mubarakan fihi, wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's a group called the United States Council of Muslim Organization, and they have declared today a day of prayer. So they are encouraging Muslims everywhere to pray. and in solidarity. Please forgive me for taking some time off today. I know it would be because we started, because of the time change. So I want to, in closing, mention again, Jumu'ah will not be coming on this coming Friday. We're suspending Jumu'ah for now. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا إننا سمعنا من الإيمان للإيمان آمنوا بربكم فآمنا نستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ونتوب إليه إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي